Would you spend just 5 or 10 minutes upfront to avoid massive, frustrating, time-sucking, and possibly career-ending disasters later on? Of course you would. Yet time and time again, organizations skip critical vendor setup checks, setting themselves up for financial losses, operational nightmares, and worst of all, an irate boss or board of directors demanding answers. Make sure you stick around until the end when we discuss the one task that many take a lackadaisical approach to, an approach that makes them inefficient and eats stealthily into their bottom line profitabilities. Verification step number 1. Check the address of your new supplier against the addresses in your organization's HR files, the file that's used for payroll. What are you looking for? The goal is to find any employees who are trying to set up a phantom vendor. If they use their own address, checking against the HR addresses will identify a potential problem. I say potential because there could be a legitimate reason for the match. So once you identify a match, investigate before you start making any accusations. Think this doesn't happen? You'd be surprised how often it does. Disaster avoided. Employees successfully setting up a phony vendor in the master vendor file and then potentially defrauding an organization of millions. While this doesn't happen often, the check should take no more than a minute or two. In more than one high-profile employee fraud case, this tactic has been used. Now, not doing this next step could not only cost your organization, it can generate something no organization wants, along with having a negative impact on your career. What is that? Bad publicity. Verification step number 2. Check your new vendor against the SDN list. This is the list of specially designated nationals that the U.S. government says U.S. persons, that's their language, not mine, cannot make payments to. The SDN list, which includes the OFAC list, as you know, the Office of Foreign Asset Control list, is maintained by the U.S. Treasury and updated several times a week. You are really supposed to check against this every time you make a payment, but we know that few people do this. Doing it on a regular basis can be time consuming, so that's why many companies either just do it when they first set up the new vendor or maybe run their whole master vendor file against the list once a month. But really, you're supposed to do it every time, but at a minimum, do it when you first set up the vendor. Don't automatically think this one doesn't apply to you because you only have domestic customers. You could be in for a rude awakening. What are you looking for? You are ensuring your organization is not making a payment to a terrorist or other organization deemed undesirable by the U.S. government. Now, before you say, of course we wouldn't do that, or we only do business domestically, let me warn you of several things. First, terrorist organizations are quite good at disguising themselves as legitimate businesses and charities, by the way. And second, because you don't sell internationally doesn't mean that you don't buy components or services from those outside the U.S. Finally, if you do find a match, you need to investigate. There can be quite a few false positives, so don't get hysterical if you get a match. Many organizations have similar names or organizations with the same name but a totally separate group and usually located in another country, so investigation is critical. Disaster avoided. If you were to make a payment to one of these organizations, it would likely be blocked by your financial institution. Notice I said likely, it's not a guarantee. But you'd have a big problem on your hands if you had already accepted goods or services from them. There could also be fines and penalties, and not to mention negative attention. This next one is simple to do and avoids headaches with the IRS which saves your organization a lot of aggravation. But it still boggles my mind that every organization doesn't do this. Hopefully yours is doing it, but if you're not, listen up. Okay, so verification step number 3. Verify that the taxpayer identification information you have collected from your new supplier, ideally on a Form W-9, is accurate using the IRS TIN matching service. For those who don't know, this is the same service that the IRS will use to verify the name match on the 1099s you issue to your independent contract. And best of all, it's free. What are you looking for? The reason to use this free service, and yes, I am trying to emphasize that there is no upfront cost or cost at all to using this service, is to find the name TIN mismatches and get them fixed before you mail your 1099s in January. Today, best practice organizations not only do this when they first set up the vendor, but also right before they get ready to issue those 1099s. Disaster avoided. For every 1099 with a name TIN mismatch, the IRS will send a B notice, and there is a fine associated with each of these B notices. And you need to attempt to get the mismatched information straightened out using the IRS's rigorous and time-consuming process. Savvy companies not only get the mismatches fixed ahead of time so they can do it, at their own speed and using their own processes, but they will, once they get a B notice, attempt to have the fines and penalties mitigated or abated. All this is necessary, although it's time-consuming and expensive. I'm continued to be amazed at how many organizations ignore this next step. And some of them get away with it, and then some of them end up with egg on them. So you'll see what I mean in a minute. Verification step number 4. Do credit checks on large suppliers of critical components. This step is critical if you're purchasing your entire requirements from one supplier or depending on them for a large part of your inventory that is not easily obtainable from another vendor. While making arrangements for the credit review is something that typically would be handled by the purchasing professional responsible for the account, others in the accounting chain should bring it to management's attention if it is not something that is part of your normal process. What are you looking for? The goal here is to make sure that your organization doesn't end up with the short end of the stick. This could happen if the supplier suddenly goes bankrupt or out of business. An astute analysis of their financials up front and on a regular basis, by the way, will alert your organization if they need to be concerned and or make other arrangements. Disaster avoided. When a supplier becomes unexpectedly unavailable to provide goods or services on a regular basis, it can create a real problem for its customers. They may not be able to continue producing adequate product, and someone like your boss or your boss's boss will be called then to explain to the board of directors how this could have possibly happened. It is not a pleasant conversation. And now moving on, there's absolutely no excuse for not making this next part of your processes, yet more than you might think don't. Verification step number 5. When setting up a new supplier, do everything in your power to verify that they are not capable and don't want to receive electronic payment. You may have sent them your ACH form with your new vendor application, and they returned the application but didn't return the form. Pick up the phone. Do everything in your power to get them signed up for electronic payment. What are you looking for? The best case scenario is with a little upfront efforts, you'll be able to get all new suppliers enrolled to receive electronic payments via the ACH. We're not talking about wire transfers. ACH payments are cheaper than checks and wires and require a lot less manual effort. Checks are also more prone to fraud. Disaster avoided. Obviously, you want to try and avoid check fraud, but it's more than that. The expensive manual efforts associated with creating a paper check, along with the tedious follow-ups that are required, can cost your company big time. If you want to be fully prepared to handle the ACH payments your organization will need to make, click on the link that has appeared on your YouTube screen and is in the description. It is our comprehensive guide that will give you the information you need to handle this all-important task for your organization. Good luck.